Two horror films, two different beasts. The Heretic, 2024, atmospheric, unnerving, and soaked in dread, and Barbarian, 2022, a chaotic thrill ride full of twists and psychological terror. Today, we're diving deep into the minds behind the madness, comparing the directing styles, the arcs that drive these characters to the edge, the cultural impact each film had, and whether they found success outside the horror niche. Was The Heretic's slow-burn storytelling too restrained, or exactly what modern horror needs? Did Barbarian's unpredictable structure change the game, or just subvert it for shock value? Let's explore the fears, the filmmaking, and the deeper messages that make or break horror in the 2020s. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on our latest deep dives into the world of cinema. Now let's get into the directorial style of these thrilling films. The Heretic, 2024. Scott Beck and Brian Woods lean hard into atmospheric horror. The pacing is deliberate, slow-burn tension that builds scene by scene. They use long, quiet takes and naturalistic lighting to create a creeping dread, favoring suspense over shock. It's immersive, grounded, and methodical. More dread than jump scares. Barbarian. Zach Cregger throws structure out the window, in a good way. His direction is chaotic but purposeful, moving from grounded realism to near-surreal nightmare logic. He uses sharp tonal shifts and unpredictable pacing to disorient the audience. It's bold, fast, and structurally wild, keeping viewers guessing every 10 minutes. The Heretic uses muted color palettes and rural isolation to visually communicate its themes. The camera often lingers, creating unease through stillness and negative space. There's a restraint to the visuals, less about spectacle, more about mood and implication. Barbarian. Cregger is much more kinetic. He plays with camera movement, from claustrophobic handheld shots in the basement to wide static frames above ground. He's not afraid to let the camera move with the monster or jarringly cut to new locations. His visual language reflects chaos and fragmentation. The Heretic. The setting feels like a character. Rural America, decaying buildings, and vast forests mirror the character's isolation and trauma. Beck and Woods use setting as a container for tension, quiet, suffocating, and ever-present. Barbarian. The Detroit house is the perfect trap. Cregger layers the setting with secrets. What looks safe on the surface hides something feral underneath. He uses location like a magician uses a hat. Misdirection, reveal, misdirection again. The Heretic. Inspired by classic horror pacing. Think The Witch, The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby. It's more art house than mainstream. The directing duo borrow from slow-burn masters and blend it with folklore horror. Barbarian. Influenced by genre benders like Jordan Peele or Sam Raimi. Cregger's background in comedy shows, not in the tone, but in timing and subversion. His directing thrives on setup versus payoff and messing with expectations. The Heretic is precise, moody, and restrained. Horror by erosion. Barbarian is wild, unpredictable, and bold. Horror by whiplash. Both masterful in their own way, but playing two very different games. At the heart of every horror film, behind the blood and dread, there's usually one question. What is this character going to survive? And who will they become on the other side? Let's start with The Heretic. Our protagonist in The Heretic begins already carrying emotional weight. Grief, guilt, or something even older. Her arc is subtle, psychological. This isn't a journey of someone becoming a final girl. It's a descent into belief, madness, or maybe understanding. Her transformation is spiritual, not just physical. By the end, she's changed, not by defeating the horror, but by merging with it, accepting it, or being forever altered. It's a slow, introspective unraveling. Her arc reflects the film's tone, quiet, haunting, unresolved. Now, Barbarian. Tess starts off cautious, empathetic, but in a horror world that punishes trust. Her arc is all about navigating danger without losing her humanity. She learns to survive, but also to take control. In contrast to the Heretic, Tessa's transformation is active. She's forced to make brutal decisions, and while the system, or the setting, seems rigged against her, she pushes back. She evolves into someone brave, but not without cost. Her arc isn't just survival, it's reclamation of agency, of control, of self. Two protagonists, two paths, one drawn deeper into the woods, the other climbing out of the basement. Both unforgettable, both fighting something bigger than themselves. Horror doesn't exist in a vacuum. It reflects the fears of the time, and both of these films say something about the world we live in, but they're speaking different languages. Let's start with Barbarian. Soaked in commentary, from gentrification and housing insecurity to male entitlement and systemic abuse. It taps into modern anxieties about trust, especially how women navigate unsafe environments in a world that doesn't believe them. Kreger weaponizes social norms, politeness, awkwardness, the fear of seeming rude, and turns them into survival risks. It's a film about monsters, sure, but it's also about the everyday horrors women face just walking through the world. Now contrast that with The Heretic, 2024. That speaks to something older, deeper. It taps into cultural fear around losing connection to nature, to tradition, to spirituality. In a hyper-digital, fast-moving world, this film slows everything down and asks, what happens when we forget the old ways? There's a strong undercurrent of reckoning, with grief, faith, and the cost of generational silence. While Barbarian is loud and urgent, The Heretic whispers, a commentary on how modern life erodes the soul and how horror can emerge from the sacred, not just the profane. Both films reflect cultural fears. Barbarian confronts them head-on with a scream. The Heretic invites you to sit in the silence and listen to what you've forgotten. Either way, horror reveals the truths we're too scared to face in daylight. When it comes to horror, commercial success isn't just about scares. It's about timing, word of mouth, and sometimes pure luck. So how did Barbarian and The Heretic stack up at the box office and in the public eye? Barbarian was a surprise hit. With a modest budget, around $4 million, it pulled in over $45 million worldwide. Not blockbuster numbers, but a huge win for an original horror film with zero franchise backing. What drove that success? A killer trailer, viral buzz, and the kind of word of mouth that only comes when people walk out of a theater saying, "What did I just watch?" It became a must-see experience, especially for horror fans craving something different. The Heretic, on the other hand, had a quieter release. It leaned more art house than mainstream, with limited theatrical screenings and a quick pivot to streaming platforms. While it didn't make major waves commercially, that may not have been the goal. The film positioned itself more as a slow-burn, festival-friendly horror, aimed at a niche audience that loves films like The Witch or Saint Maud. So, was Barbarian the bigger commercial success? Absolutely. But The Heretic may find its audience over time. Horror has a long history of slow-burn classics becoming cult favorites. One exploded on impact. The other? It might just haunt us quietly for years to come. Little-known fact, The Heretic 2024 was shot entirely in chronological order, which is extremely rare in modern filmmaking. Directors Scott Beck and Brian Woods chose this method to help the actors naturally build tension and emotional continuity as the story unfolded. Shooting this way allowed performances, especially Hugh Grant's, to evolve organically in real time, adding depth to the film's slow-burn atmosphere. Little-known fact in Barbarian. The infamous basement set was built in Bulgaria on a soundstage, but the dilapidated house's exterior was a real abandoned home in Detroit, chosen specifically for its eerie, desolate surroundings. To film there, the crew had to build an entire replica neighborhood facade, just to get the one perfect street view shot seen in the movie's opening. Whether you're into slow-burn spiritual dread or high-octane basement chaos, one thing's clear: horror has never been more diverse or more daring. If you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a favor. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm gods, subscribe for more deep dives into horror and beyond, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss what's lurking around the next corner. Until next time, thanks for watching.